Well, everyone, once again we are back with Rachna. So here I'm going to tell you about the mind is where the mind is without fear, written by Rabindranath Tagore. And I'm sure you people have already gone through my previous video, but in this video we are going to cover a few other details that we should be knowing and we should be covering as students of literature, right? So let's get started without any further delay. Rabindranath Tagore, he was a Bengali poet, short story writer, song composer, playwright and painter. He introduced new prose and verse forms and the use of colloquial language into Bengali literature helped introduce Indian culture to the West, and of course vice versa, and is generally regarded as the outstanding creative artist of early 20th century in India, right? So I'm sure if you have seen my previous video, you will know that we have covered a lot about Rabindranath Tagore in that as well, right? But just to justify this video as well, we should know that Rabindranath Tagore, he was born on May 7th, 1861 in Calcutta, which is now known as Kolkata, and he died on August 7th, 1941 in Calcutta. Now, in 1913, Rabindranath Tagore, he became the first non-European to receive the Nobel Prize for literature. Isn't that a great thing, right? Now, Tagore, he was awarded a knighthood in 1915, but he repudiated it in 1919 as a protest against the Amritsar Jallianwala Bagh massacre. Now this is a very big thing, children, and probably this is the reason why Rabindranath Tagore, he is so famous and he is so well known and respected to date. It's not easy for anybody to just give up their knighthood just because you don't like something that your country has done to us or somebody has done something to you. It's not an easy task, but yes, Rabindranath Tagore, he did do this, right? Now let's come back to the poem. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought and action. Into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. Now let's understand this poem bit by bit, Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls. Now, let's understand this. Where the mind is without fear is it's a hysterical poem, right? And he wrote this poem in his famous Gitanjali book, which is a collection of various other poems, right? Usually poems are meant to be written by an ascent of artistry, but this was a totally different one. This poem was a gratifying yearning to the God for freedom, and the concept of freedom in this poem is superior in all respect. Tagore was an optimistic writer known for his extraordinary contribution into literature. So, when we analyze this, keeping all this in mind, when we analyze this, what do we understand? That this poem is a piece of hearty words of invocation, that attempt to break the shackles from every corner. You might understand when you go through this, you might just feel that in this particular poem, when he says, where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world is not broken into fragments by narrow domestic walls, he is trying to say that um, the world is all it's all broken up. It's all broken up into narrow domestic walls. It's like everybody is just thinking about themselves. Every country in that era was only thinking about themselves. It stands true even for today, right? But still, we are a little more widened where our approach is, right? So, what does he say? That one might have to raise their sword. One might have to raise their sword in in protest against the world, but it doesn't have to work always. The above lines are exact example of prelude of the human nature. It addresses us to break the almighty belief of getting cornered and having to lose our dignity. Okay, so every word that is uttered from the mouth should not be because of uh, backstabbing or stabbing black shadow, but it should be because of what the reckless eyes of an individual sees within themselves. The world is a unity of gracious stems of thoughts and belief. And so, let's not dig deeper in nasty and awful ways of uh, provoking people, of hurting people. Alright? They are the minds of visions and prospects. There are no narrow domestic walls or fragments or divisions that could scatter the world into pieces. But if we fall from a greater milestone, we would just sit and look frantically towards the sky to send us help, as one would tirelessly try to attain perfection. Right? So, you might just think that what I have told you in my previous video is a little different from that, though it is not all that different. See, okay, let's finish this, then I shall tell you a little further about things. Okay, so where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever widening thought of action, into that heaven of freedom, my Father, let my country awake. So, what he says is that let's not stand on our feet and speak their words from our mouth. Let us not fall on our feet and garnish their gardens. Let us not give conditions to ourselves with flanky reason, and let us not get lost in the way of clear perceiving reasons. It's neither a command nor a request, but it's a matter of our pride and integrity. We should be standing in the line of bright colors where one should eventually lead themselves without any cry of those cruddy people, those wretched people who actually try and dominate us. Okay? We should be free like the sky to the mountain and the drops of the ocean, as one might find peace in it through their actions of gay. And at the end is the urge of freedom. As freedom not in sense of sentences or words, but freedom should be like those petals in the sky rushing in the air with the wind. Freedom should be like a heaven on earth with a sparkling sweetness in everybody's heart and not in any political property. Is the pray to the God that let my sleeping folks sleep in their dreams and perform in their headful state. It's a request to the minds of the people that fear is not a term to define but an expression to reveal out your thoughts and ideas. Okay, so you see, children, Rabindranath Tagore in this poem has completely shown a broader view over the fear of the minds of the people and the actions of the world. Right? So it is basically more of a prayer. Now, children, you might think, like I was just saying, that you might think that in my previous video I was giving you a slightly different view of this poem, or probably I was speaking certain different words. But children, see, in poetry, especially where the poetry is supposed to be one which is metaphysical, right? You are free to use your own judgment. Okay? One has to be free enough to use their own judgment of what they really want to say. You can't take every line just as it is. Though, of course, in this, when we go deeper into this poem, we find that everywhere he has only said one thing. He has just said this, that he wants his countrymen to wake up and not just keep sleeping. He wants that his countrymen should learn to live with their heads held high. He wants that everybody should be living with pride, and we should not curb ourselves to some ideas and states of mind. Like, you shouldn't just keep thinking, oh no, he is my master and I can't leave him, because everybody is supposed to be a master of their own will, right? So you got to understand that in this particular poem he is trying to pray for a better India, right? So basically it's also an urge. It's more of a hysterical poem, because probably there was something that he saw at that time which he really didn't like, and he just went on to saying that, please God, do something about my country and the countrymen. Okay? Don't forget that in that era, when there could be a masquerade like the Jallianwala Bagh, right? And there were numerous other such things that were happening, right? So naturally, anybody in their sane mind and anybody who wanted to work for the country and the countrymen would actually act like this, right? So now let's understand the use of figure of speech over here. Here, children, there is alliteration. Okay. Now you have head is held high and dreary desert sand of dead habit. Now let's understand. Head is held high. You have repetition of the H sound. You have H everywhere, right? And dreary desert sand of dead habit, you have D everywhere, right? So you have whenever you have the sound which is being repeated, that is alliteration. Okay. Now the next one we have metaphor. Children, metaphor is an implied simile. Okay. So you don't have like or as. The words like and the word as, these two words, they are missing. Okay. So when you have metaphor, over here the head is held high. Then the next one is where the world has not been broken up into fragments of narrow domestic worlds and the clear stream of reason. Okay. So what do we have here? We have the head is held high. Let's take this one first. Now, physically speaking, Indians could hold their heads high, but this expression is used to show how Indians were considered as lower humans than the British, where only the rulers or the Britishers could live with dignity. Okay. Then the next one we have where the world has not been broken up into narrow domestic, broken up into fragments, right, by narrow domestic walls. In this particular figure of speech, in this particular line, what he's trying to say is the walls being talked about are not physical structures of brick and cement, but the walls of narrow-minded thinking and the caste system. Okay. So this is what he is again trying to say here. Alright. And this is why we call this as a metaphor. Okay. Then we have the clear stream of reason. Now children, here what happens is the poet compares a logical mind to a clear stream. So in both cases, clear water is good and muddy water is not desired. Okay. Now if we look at the third one, which is personification, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, and the other one, let my country awake. So let's take the first one first, where tireless striving stretches its arms into perfection. Here what is it? The idea of striving, the word striving, has been given the shape of a human being whose arms are stretching and trying very hard to reach perfection. Okay. And the other one, let my country awake. Let's understand this. A country is not a living being, yet the poet talks about the nation waking up just like a human wakes up from sleep. Now children, here when we talk of personification, Please understand that in personification, you you speak to the dead as if that they were living. Okay, so as if they were human beings. Now here in this poem, in these lines, even though these things are not living, okay, yet he is talking as if they were living. The country is not a living, it's not a human being, right? But he is speaking as if it was a human being. So this is what personification is. Now let's come to irony. Where the mind is without fear, and the next line, knowledge is free. Children, in fact, if you look at this entire poem, it is full of irony. Okay, for instance, when Tagore seeks a nation where the mind is without fear, he very subtly points out that India was not a free nation. Okay, where Indians could live without fearing the British. Similarly, when we talk of knowledge is free, it implies that in that time, knowledge was not free for everybody. Okay, everyone did not have access to education. So, children, when we are talking of this, please understand that irony is that there could be something which is already there, right? But we were so blind, or we couldn't really see that. Okay, so here again, when he's saying that knowledge is there, but it's not for us, it's not free, right? The mind is there to work, but the irony is what, that we are full of fear. We have fear so much that we are not able to reason. Okay, so this is basically what the figure of speech tells you over here. Now, children, let's understand that when we are talking of this particular poem, we are talking about caste system, we are talking about religious values, we are talking about our country, we are talking about the people of our country, and how our country was, in the shackles of the British. Okay, we were all tied up. We didn't have anything that was, everything was ours, yet everything was not ours. We were using their brains, we were not using our brains, right? They were using this divide and rule policy, and we were actually following that, because suddenly everything like caste system came in, everything like everything which was not supposed to have been there, like thinking that you're a Muslim, I'm a Hindu, and so on and so forth. All that actually happened, right? So this is basically what he's referring to when he's talking of narrow domestic walls, right? And when he's talking of clear stream of reason, when he's actually saying that we are not using our brains, why on earth are we using the brains of others, right? So this is basically what this poem is all about. All right, I hope you people have understood, and I have tried to give you two different ways of interpreting the same poem. All right, so let's go through it, and I hope that you people are going to come back to me and let me know that you have gone through this very well, right? In the description box you're going to find the link for the other poem as well, the same poem, sorry, but the link for the other video of mine, you're going to find that. So go through that as well, before we meet for this uh, going through all the revision, right? So, thank you very much. And he has said very, very rightfully that, very rightly, he has said that you cannot cross the sea merely by standing and staring at the water. Okay? You just can't cross it. You got to do something about it. Right? So, have a wonderful day, children, and I hope you've really enjoyed this. And let me know if you have any problems, right? Thank you so much. Have a wonderful day. Bye bye.